Welcome, everyone, for an exciting edition of VFS Originals. I'm thrilled to speak here live and direct from Studio 8 at 151 West Cordova with Jillian Dion, AC28 graduate.
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago. Yeah. But thank you so much for coming back to talk to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just wanted to talk to you about your experience going to Vancouver Film School. Can you tell us how you ended up here?
So Vancouver Film School happened for me when I was 18. I arrived, and then we started the month I turned 19. So prior to that, I had acted in a mini series called Into the West, which was like a major production. It was my very first. Stepped onto set, was immediately lost. Didn't know where to go. They're like, go to circus. I was like, what? Like, I have no idea what that is. And just like the terminology, the camaraderie was there, which is nice. That always happens among actors, I find. But I was just thrown for a loop. So I decided to like weigh my options. I was from Alberta. I wanted to stay sort of close to home. So just kind of Googled what was out there and then came across Vancouver Film School. Liked what I saw in the intro package way back when, 2007, 2008. And yeah, just kind of came here and I did the acting for essentials first, which I really enjoyed. Was with phenomenal teachers, students from around the world, which was really cool. And everybody just really hungry and full of passion. So it felt like a place I wanted to be.
Great.
And then after that, I took a year off just to kind of see what was out there and then decided I wasn't ready quite yet. So came back and I did and graduated from the full year program. And again, was just like surrounded by just wonderful people, knowledgeable instructors, and just like a plethora of classes that kind of taught me how to use my voice, how to analyze a script, build a character, feel comfortable in my skin. And then kind of just shot me out into a world. And I felt a little bit more ready than I did before.
It's good. We're really like the mob. Once you come in, you can't leave. So you tried to leave and you were dragged back in. So I'm not surprised to hear that happen.
Yeah.
It's great.
It took like some years.
Yeah.
But
Who were some of the instructors that left an impact on you from the school?
yeah. I really liked, I don't remember her last name, but she was so sweet. Sarah.
Okay.
Um, she was lovely. I really also liked Andrew McRoy.
Mhm.
Classes with him, and it was like life lessons, but just like a no nonsense look into what it really meant to be a part of a ensemble and like what your character really was meant to be there for.
Sure.
Um, I really liked, I believe it's Allison Court.
Yep.
Yeah, we did voice, which I really found extremely helpful prior to coming to VFS. I was really quite shy. Wasn't on my voice at all. Realized that was like a super important part to acting and
Sure.
just in life, basically. Yeah, and I'm trying to like think it's been Adam Henderson I really liked. I really liked the movement class with him. And let's see. I did enjoy some improv.
Nice.
Yeah.
For the record, I wasn't there then, or else she would have listed me. I just wasn't. I wasn't. That's awesome. And so, do you feel like the school had you prepared to work professionally in the industry, and what takeaways, like what lessons from the school helped you in your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say when I was like out into the world, I was given a really usable demo, which I was able to submit to agencies. I knew what particular questions they might ask or what sort of skill set they might be looking for.
Hmm.
I think in terms of takeaways, I was prepared for auditions, which is a huge part of being an actor.
Sure.
Um, I was prepared to know what to expect when going to an audition. And then once booking the role, I was less terrified than I was going in when I was 18, totally unsuspecting.
You figured out what circus was.
Yes.
You so now when it's in
Yes.
circus, you go and it's
Yes.
oh,
Yeah, and I find like the AD, and then I like
sure. Well, the rhythm of working on a film set is very particular, right?
Mhm.
And unless you learn that, it's hard to know. And I find that, I wish there was a school like VFS when I started, because similar to you, I missed lunch my first day on set because they just told me it was lunchtime and no one showed me where to go. So it's very useful for that regard. Cool. And so you had success early on. You said you booked a gig before you came to the school.
Mhm.
So have you always had a natural passion or inclination for acting, or how did you come up on this?
Not really at all. It's not like the typical story where I did theater or anything like that. I was like not involved in acting whatsoever. When I was youth, like junior high, high school, really anything. I think the only thing I'd done was like a play when I was like 6 or 7.
What play?
We did. I think we did Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Nice.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yep.
My first play was a Christmas play as well. I played Joseph in my church's nativity play.
Ah.
So when did you know that acting was the path?
So it's kind of a long one. I was traveling with my family across USA in like one of those like army camper vans. We're doing like the family thing where you're like, so we ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which was like one of the destinations. And there's something called the Gathering of Nations, which is one of the largest powwows in the world. So it's a lot of indigenous traditional dance, markets, ceremony, whatever. And just while in Albuquerque, there was like a little tiny snippet in the newspaper, and it was just calling for an indigenous young woman like my age. So my father was like, "Why don't you go and do this?" I was like, "That's terrifying. No, thank you." But he was like kind of persistent that I do it. So I was like, I love my father. So I was like, okay, okay, I'll do this. I went and I basically walked in. The casting director assistant went and grabbed the casting agent because they liked my look. And she introduced herself as Renee Haynes. And I thought there was this memory that I had that snapped in. About 6 years prior, I was on a bus in Edmonton with my mom. And there was this woman, I guess, who was like watching, and I was like very like animated and whatever. And she was like, if your daughter would ever like to get into acting, here's my card. Um, so that name kind of stuck with me. And then when she introduced herself, she was like, I'm Renee Haynes. And I was like, oh. And then I went in my wallet and I had this card
What?
that she had given me 6 years ago, like prior. And I was like, is
Just
this you?
totally randomly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was like, well, I was like, is this you? And she was like, yes. And I was like, we met on a bus like ages ago
Whoa,
in Edmonton.
it's a wild story.
Yeah.
So it's almost like destiny.
It was crazy.
Huh. Wow.
So yeah, I ended up doing that audition. That one was crazy. They gave me a compact disc because that's the era that it was.
Mhm.
That's where the audition was. I put it in my Discman. And it was about, if I had to guess, I would say it was about 4 to 5 pages of script they wanted me to learn. And I took 2 days to do it. They brought me back. I ended up auditioning. I loved it. And then about 2 months later, I got a call from Renee in LA who wanted me to come down to audition for the director. So it was a movie called The New World, and I ended up auditioning for Terrence Malick for my very first audition.
And that was your first booking? Did you?
No, I
Oh,
didn't book
you
that.
didn't get it.
Nope.
So I just want to understand this. You were scouted on a bus, then saw your dad saw something randomly in a newspaper.
Mhm.
You went into audition. The same casting director happened to be there. You did your first audition, and you went to network with Terrence Malick.
Yeah.
That is an uncommon story. But obviously, you had a natural aptitude for this.
It was so fun. Oh my gosh. Like when I did the audition, like once I had the lines down pat, it was just a room basically around this size. And like my dad was always like whenever we were on vacation, he always had his camcorder house. He was always like filming the family. So I was familiar and comfortable being in front of a camera. And then once I got the lines down pat and knew kind of what was going on, and they loosely said this is like a Pocahontas story. So I was like, okay, what do I know about this character already? Playful, light. And then I imagined just basically every scene around me in an empty room and just really had fun with that. And once I tuned into that and found out there was a whole world of imagination where you could just lose yourself, I was like, this is the best. This is so cool. And like, it was freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were already kind of doing like text analysis and fourth wall and just
Yeah.
organically before you
Yeah.
learned it at the school.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you mentioned you were at the Gathering of Nations in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So talk to me a little bit about the importance of representation.
It's huge. I mean, like back then it was a lot more one-dimensional than it is now. Like the indigenous character is known as like the indigenous character, maybe wearing a feather and like maybe like stereotyped and whatever else. So representation now is a lot more, well, it's important, but like now it's not so one-dimensional. Like there's characters that have real dialogue, and those characters that aren't just the stereotypical, it Native American that you'd see like maybe in the 50s or whatever else.
The stoic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
I mean, I've said this before, but the first credits on my resume are literally thug number one and slave number two.
Right?
So like we've come a long way in terms of BIPOC representation. So
Totally.
yeah. Cool. And VFS on June 22nd is National Indigenous Peoples Day,
Mhm.
and VFS has a scholarship that we're offering, value of $162,000. What would you tell a young aspiring Indigenous artist who's considering studying film? Like, what would you tell them to encourage them?
I would say go for it. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And that's one thing I learned when I was petitioning to come here. There was a lot of grants available and people just don't know about them. So I think if you can get the word out and present on reserves even, then there's a hunger out there. I would say in terms like to Indigenous youth, that there's opportunities everywhere, like look in school plays and like if you're wanting a way to express yourself and you want a way to feel comfortable in your skin, even if you don't at times, like acting is a great outlet for that. And as Indigenous people, we are natural born storytellers. So I think that plays a lot into what you see now with Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls and Killers of the Flower Moon. Like there's a lot of stories to be told and to be put out in the world. So I would say if you want to do it or even you're curious,
Mhm.
why not have a look at like options out there like the BFS website or just like an intro package and see if that's something that might be interesting to you. And if you can get a scholarship, like even better.
Even better.
Yeah.
If someone will pay for it for you,
Yes.
better. Jillian Dion, AC 28 acting graduate. Look out for her in Killers of the Flower Moon.